I started noticing it with the silence. Not the kind you expect on a slow night. No, not that soft, tired quiet that settles in around 2 a.m. This was something deeper, sharper, like a hole in the fabric of things. It began about a week ago, though I couldn't have told you what it was then. Just a feeling that something was missing, like reaching for a coffee cup that was never there. It was the regulars at first. Callers I've known for years. Angela from the Valley, with her long rants about birds being government spies. Anton in the hills who liked to call during storms and whisper ghost stories into the static. I didn't think much of it when I missed a night. People drop off. Lives change. But then the days passed and they didn't come back. I played old clips to fill the air, segments where they'd called in before, laughing or rambling or crying, their voices crackling through the line. I kept waiting for them to reappear, to call in and say, "I heard you played me the other night." Nothing, just more silence. Then I checked the obits. I don't do that often, not as a habit, but something in me itched. And there they were, not under some tragic headline, not even marked with grief. Just names, quiet announcements. Angela Albright, 54. Anton Amari, 61. No cause listed. No service. No survivors. All A names. I told myself it was a coincidence. A very strange, very unlucky coincidence. But then the news feed started glitching. Not in a tech way, in a content way. Stories that had aired days earlier suddenly had gaps. Names removed. Surnames gone from the bylines. Photos blurred. One article just read, "Local woman found," and then stopped. Blank space where the rest of the name should have been. I printed a page from the station's archive, a weather alert sign by our emergency director, Amanda Burns. But when I pulled the paper from the tray, her name wasn't there. Just a line break. Like the machine had paused mid-thought and then decided she didn't exist. Still, I brushed it off. Glitches, typos, bad data, until I got the call. A young man, voice shaky, like he hadn't slept, called from a payphone near Route 12. He said, "I'm watching people disappear." He wasn't panicked, not in the way you'd expect. He sounded stunned, raw, like the world had tipped slightly and he was still trying to stand straight. "It's alphabetical," he said. I didn't notice it at first, but my girlfriend, Allie, she vanished last night. Just stopped existing. Her room's empty. Her family's gone, like she was never born. He paused. "My last name's Barnes." Then the line went dead, and that's when it clicked. Angela, Anton, Amanda, Allie, and now, Barnes. I sat in this booth for a long time after that. Not speaking, not breathing too loud, just thinking, turning it over in my head like a bad riddle I didn't want to solve. What if it's not a coincidence? What if it's a pattern? And what happens when it reaches me? My last name doesn't start with A or B, but it's there, not far down the list. And tonight, I can't shake the feeling that I'm watching the alphabet slowly unspool itself into nothing, letter by letter, name by name, and we're just waiting for the right shape to vanish next. It's not a theory anymore. I've been watching it unfold in real time, like a slow, relentless erasure. People keep calling, not as many as usual, but enough. The lines are quieter now. Not dead, just missing something, like the voices that used to fill the space have been deleted from memory, leaving only the faint outline of their presence behind. It's the BS now. I check my list of callers, the regulars I've saved over the years, the ones I knew by voice even before they said their names. Bernice from the West Orchard. Bobby, the guy who worked nights at the shipping yard. The brothers from Baird who used to phone in with midnight gospel covers on their harmonica. Gone. At first, I thought maybe they just didn't feel like calling. But then I noticed something strange. Their numbers disappeared from the log. Entire entries wiped clean, like the station's memory of them had been redacted. I even looked at old show recordings, episodes where they talked for minutes, told stories, made jokes, and their parts were silent. Just gaps. Me talking no one. Laughing at empty air. I thought it was corruption, file damage. But it's too clean, too specific. Only the people with B last names. And that's when I noticed the mail bin. I get a few letters every week, folks too shy to call or too far out for a signal. I keep them in a rusted tray next to the board. But tonight, I flipped through the pile and realized there were no S or BS anymore. The envelope skipped straight to C, like the alphabet has started closing doors behind it. And the weirdest part? No one's mentioning it. Not on the big news stations. Not in print. No alerts, no theories, no panic. Just quiet adjustments. As if the world is bending around the absence, smoothing over the missing letters with practiced denial. But a few people are starting to notice. A caller from Denver, we'll call him Carl. He said he walked into a meeting yesterday with 6 colleagues. They all had B surnames. Businessmen, lawyers. He was the only C. 10 minutes into the meeting, he looked up from his notepad and realized he was alone. They were just gone. No one saw them leave. No doors opened. No footsteps. No goodbyes. Just vanished. And then his phone buzzed. One text. Blank screen. No contact name. Just the letter C. He hasn't slept since. I'm trying to piece this together, trying to document what I can while I still can. Because if this really is happening in alphabetical order, then someone is organizing it. Something. Or maybe it's the alphabet itself. Finally tired of holding our names. Think about it. Everything about our systems, our records, our identity, it all starts with letters. Names, files, ID cards. What if that structure, that order, is collapsing from the top down? What if we build our lives on a code that was never meant to last? And now the code is cleaning house. One letter at a time. Tonight, I'm asking listeners, if you still remember anyone whose name started with A or B, call me. Email. Say their names out loud. We need to keep them alive somehow. Because memory might be the only thing standing between them and absolute erasure. And if your name starts with C, be ready. You're next in line. The station's quiet in a way I don't like. Not the usual quiet. Not the familiar hush of static and a low hum of power running through old wires. This is something else, an absence that vibrates, like the silence itself is echoing. I didn't notice it at first. Not really. But tonight it's louder. I think it's because the BS are completely gone now. It happened fast. At first, it was just the usual folks I noticed, callers, contacts, names I knew. But then it spread. I checked the station's archive index earlier, public files, town census documents, show transcripts. Everything's digitized these days, but even digital memory isn't safe. The staff list from 2012? Brad, our former technician, gone. Like he never worked here. Even old emails addressed to him bounce back. Recipient not found. I pulled out an old photograph we kept framed near the booth door. A station group shot, dated spring 2014. I remember the day we took it, bright sun, cold wind, everyone laughing because the camera kept shaking. There were 10 of us then, 3 with B surnames. Now there are 7. They didn't blur out or fade. They were just never there. The sky behind the group looks clearer now. The space they once occupied is just more background, like the past is revising itself in real time. And here's what really rattled me, music. I pulled a few records from the old stacks, just to feel something solid. Spun a Benny Goodman track, one I used to play on slow jazz nights. But the record's label now reads Unknown Orchestra. No mention of him. No mention of anyone starting with B. Not even in the liner notes. I flipped through dozens. No Beatles. No Bach, no Billie Holiday, all renamed, reattributed, or wiped clean. And when I tried to say Benny Goodman on air, just to test myself, it felt heavy in my throat. Like the word didn't want to come out. Like I was trying to speak a language I was already forgetting. That's what scares me most. Not just that people are disappearing, but that their names are vanishing from our minds. We're not just losing the people. We're losing the capacity to remember they existed. I asked the listeners to call in if they still remembered anyone with a B last name. Only one person did, a woman in her 60s. She said her first husband's last name was Brooks. She hadn't thought about him in years. They divorced decades ago. She remembered his hands, said they were rough from carpentry, said he built a crib when their daughter was born. But when she went to look at an old photo album, his face was there, clear as day, but the name written under it was blank, just an empty space. The label had peeled away, like it refused to stay attached to someone no longer allowed in the alphabet. She cried, and then she laughed, said, "I never realized memory could have rules." That line stuck with me. Memory having rules. What if that's what this is? A system cleansing itself, not out of malice, but because we built our world on something too fragile. An order we assumed was permanent, alphabetical, linear, predictable, and now it's unraveling. I still have a few hours before C begins, but I can feel it coming, like a pressure on the back of my tongue, like the language itself is beginning to fray. If your name starts with C, write it down. Say it often. Say it loud, because soon silence might not just mean quiet. It might mean you're next. I checked the town census today. It's not something I usually bother with, but I had to know. I wanted to see it written down, somewhere official, something that would confirm I'm not imagining all of this. Not just voices on a line, not just feelings, real data, something concrete. I logged into the municipal record site, typed in the name of our town. Population, 4,312. Then, 5 seconds later, it blinked. Population, 3,877. I refreshed the page again. 3,798. I watched the number tick down in real time. Like the town was draining itself. Like people were being marked as gone, not just from this moment, but from every moment before it. I searched surnames. Started with C, since that's where we're at now. The search returned fewer results than I remembered. The Carvers used to own the diner, not listed. The Chun family, who hosted the Lunar New Year festival last year, no records. Their address now belongs to a vacant lot. I pulled out an old phone book we keep in a booth drawer. Don't ask me why I kept it. It's practically a relic, but today it was a lifeline. I scanned the names, cross-checked a few against the census. One by one, entries vanished from the town database like they'd never registered. As if whoever or whatever is doing this has administrative access to reality. It's not even chaos. It's surgical, deliberate, clean, and it's happening everywhere. I got a call from a woman in Minnesota. Said she works for a state archive. Her job is maintaining digital records, birth certificates, tax filings, licenses. This morning, her files began thinning out. Not crashing, not deleting, just quietly correcting. Whole sections gone. Names missing from directories. Offices she'd called just last week no longer had phone numbers. Even her employee badge was reissued with no surname. She said she asked her supervisor, who just stared at her and said, "You're lucky your name starts with L." And then he walked away. No fear, no shock, just acceptance. I asked her what her last name was. There was a long pause, and then she said, "I don't remember." I hung up after that. I sat here staring at the booth window, wondering if anyone would notice if I disappeared, if I'd leave a mark on the chair, if the mic would remember my voice, if the signal would carry on without me, like the station didn't skip a beat. We keep thinking we matter because we're recorded, because our names are printed in directories and etched on headstones. But all that's just formatting, a way to order the noise. And now that order is unspooling itself. The alphabet we trusted to hold our place in the world is deleting us, like we were only ever lines in a ledger. And the end of the page is approaching. I used to think reality was too big to edit. But tonight I watched a whole neighborhood vanish from the census like it had been penciled in. And the eraser's not done yet. So if your last name begins with C and you're still here, say it, whisper it, carve it into something real. Because the ledger's flipping to the next letter. And D is coming. I can feel it now, like a draft slipping under the door. It's subtle, but constant. The booth feels off, not colder exactly, but more hollow. Like the sound isn't bouncing the way it used to. Like the space is adjusting to something I haven't said yet. It's C now. That's the letter we're sitting inside. I didn't want to admit it earlier, but I think I lost someone today. Craig. He called in twice a week for as long as I've been doing this show. Lived out on Route 17, raised goats, played the banjo poorly, but enthusiastically. He used to start his calls by saying, "It's just Craig, nothing urgent," and then spend 20 minutes dissecting a dream he had about space turtles or his neighbor's suspiciously intelligent chickens. Last night, I saw his name on the call log. Missed call. I meant to ring him back after the show, just to check in. Tonight, the log doesn't show anything. No missed call. No number. No Craig. I looked at my own notes. I write everything down. There's a section in my notebook with his name, circled, along with a reminder, play back dream clip from last week. That clip's gone too. The audio file has a timestamp, but nothing inside it. Just silence. Like I'd recorded an empty room and filed it under memory. I called his landline. Disconnected. I checked the local directory. Nothing under Craig. No Craigs. Not even the ones I never met. It's not a purge. It's a narrowing. Like reality is funneling down, letter by letter, condensing the world into silence. Another caller mentioned their office's attendance sheet was missing everyone with C surnames. They laughed when they told me, said, it's like the flu hit only the third column. But when they went to call a coworker, Carolyn something, they realized they couldn't remember her last name. Then her first started to feel soft, like it didn't belong to anyone. That's how it begins. Not with panic, with forgetting. Then comes the gap, the blank space, the hollow in the room where someone used to stand. One listener sent a message, typed, frantic, time-stamped at 3:42 a.m., said her last name was Chambers. Wrote that she kept seeing herself in mirrors, but her reflection was out of sync, like it was already missing her. She ended the message with, if I'm not here tomorrow, say my name. But I can't. I looked at it again just now. The email header's intact, but the name is gone. No sender, no subject, just content floating in digital air. I tried to say it on air earlier, Chambers, but the word dropped out of my mouth like static. I couldn't hear it, like it was replaced with silence in real time. And that's the terrifying part. It's not death. It's not violence. It's erasure, a quiet unraveling. And every time I reach for the next name, the next voice, the next memory, it's already a little fainter than before. So here I am, holding the mic like it still matters, speaking names that may not exist in an hour, hoping someone out there is still hearing me, still writing them down, still remembering, because C is halfway over, and I think I just heard the sound of the next page turning. There's a kind of grief that doesn't come with tears. It comes with blank spaces. This morning, I woke up at the station. I don't remember falling asleep. 1 minute, I was finishing a segment on local history, reading off names of former mayors and town founders, all those old, proud C names etched into buildings and plaques, and the next, I was blinking against a pale sky, curled on the couch with my coat still on. The clock said 7:06 a.m. The logbook was open in front of me, pen resting where it always does. But the last entry was unfinished. Just the letter D. Nothing else. No word. No name. Just a beginning that didn't find an end. I stood up too fast. Felt dizzy. Something was wrong. Not just with me, with the air. It felt stripped down. Like less of it was there. Like the molecules were rearranging around an absence they couldn't fill. I walked the hallway. The light was still flickering in the bathroom mirror, casting shadows that didn't belong to anything. The coat rack had only my jacket now. The second one, the backup the technician left last week, was gone. I couldn't remember his name, just that it started with D. David? Dan? There was a coffee cup on the counter, half full, still warm. I picked it up, tried to remember who it belonged to. Nothing came, only the taste of something unfinished. And then the calls started again. One after another, names I recognized. Desperate voices, trying to hold on to something. A woman whose son, Declan, vanished on the way to school. Just gone. Not a scream. Not a trace. His classmates didn't remember he existed. Even his teacher had an empty desk, but no recollection who sat there. A man from outside Houston said his company's directory erased everyone with D surnames. Doctors, drivers, even the digital records of deliveries cleared out like someone had selected a column on a spreadsheet and hit delete. One call cut through everything. I woke up without my last name. The voice was soft, exhausted. He didn't say where he was from. Didn't say how he found the number. Just said he looked at his ID this morning and the surname was blank. He still remembered it. Dawson. Said it over and over like he was clinging to a piece of himself. But as we spoke, he started to hesitate. I know it was Dawson. My dad, he always said, and then he was silent. The line stayed open for another 30 seconds before cutting out. I sat there, staring at the phone, hand still on the button. I haven't heard from him since. I wrote Dawson in the logbook, even though I know it'll probably vanish too. The ink's been acting strange lately. Words fade even as I finish writing them. Whole pages look smudged even though my hand's steady. It's like the paper already knows what not to keep. And I can't stop thinking about doctors. How do you run a hospital when all the DES are gone? What about departments? Diagnoses? The very definitions we use to understand the world? Gone. Quietly. Invisibly. And no one screams. No one riots. They just adapt. Shrink around the hole like it was never there. I still have a name. For now. But it starts with a letter that's getting closer to the front of the line. And I can feel it moving toward me like a slow breath, dragging silence behind it. The first call came at 4:13 a.m. I hadn't said anything for several minutes, just sat in the booth with my fingers resting on the console, feeling the pulse of static in my headset. The air was thick with a kind of waiting, like the station itself was holding its breath. Then the phone rang. It was a young woman. Her voice cracked like it had been dragged over gravel. I didn't catch her name right away, didn't even try. Lately, names have become dangerous. You say them, and they vanish faster. She said, they're all gone. Everyone. My family, my block, my friends. I asked where she was calling from. A church, she said. Only place that had power left. I thought maybe it'd keep me safe. She was sobbing now, trying to get the words out between gasps. She said her last name was Ellis. That she woke up, and the house was empty. Her brother had been there when she fell asleep. Her mom, too. The neighbor's car had still been parked outside. This morning, no tire tracks. No footprints. No voices. Just empty beds and cold coffee. I asked how she got to the church. She said she walked. No one stopped me, she said. No one was there. No cars. No lights. Just doors left open. Like people were in the middle of things and evaporated. I asked her if she still remembered their names. There was a long silence. Then she said, I don't know. I don't know if I do anymore. I feel them like a weight on my chest. But I can't bring them up. Not their faces. Not their sounds. Just a blank where their names used to be. And then the line cut. I tried to trace the call, but there was nothing. Just an unlisted number that ended in all zeros. I tried to call her back. Got a dead tone. The kind you don't hear anymore. Old static. Like a sound from a past version of the world. And now we're in E. The ES are going quickly. I think the process is speeding up. Maybe the system is getting more efficient. Or maybe the resistance is lower. Less memory to fight. Fewer people left to remember. I pulled up the employee roster for the local hospital. It used to be pages long. Now it's 4 names. No Evans. No Elams. No Espinosas. I checked my high school yearbook. Whole pages faded. The E surnames are blank. Just rows of faces with no context. Even the titles are affected. Emergency. Exit. Entry. Evacuation. All of them feel slippery now. Like the language is softening. Making room for something quieter. I want to label tonight's file, like I always do. Each recording gets tagged with the date and title. I tried typing emergency broadcast, entry 7. The text wouldn't appear. I tried again. The E key didn't respond. It's not broken. It works in other places. Just not when I'm trying to name what's happening. I've started writing by hand again. Scratching letters on scraps of paper, receipts, margins of newspapers. Hoping ink still has power that data does not. But even that's fading. Whole lines blur before my eyes. Names dissolve off the page. A woman named Ellen left a voicemail earlier. Said she couldn't see her reflection anymore. Said the glass in her bathroom just showed a flat surface. No depth, no light, just a blank wall where a person should be. She said, I think the mirror remembers more than I do. And then she was gone too. I'm still here, still talking, still writing. But my last name starts with G, and I'm not sure how much alphabet we have left. I spent most of today waiting for the letter F to start. Not in the hopeful way, like waiting for a storm to pass. It was more like sitting in a room where the walls are inching inward, pretending not to notice the space getting tighter. Pretending there's still time. But there isn't, because F is already thinning out. You can feel it in the atmosphere, like a shift in pressure. Like something large is moving under the surface, dragging memory down behind it. The phones barely rang tonight. That's the first sign. The F names. Franklin, Fields, Flores. They used to fill up the logs. Used to call in about the weird dreams they had, or the songs they couldn't get out of their heads. People with F, names are good for stories. or they were. Now the logs are quiet, the inbox thinner, and the station's records are wrong. I looked up the name of our frequency manager, Fiona. She worked here before me. I've seen her name in memos, old tags on the back of the soundboard. But now it's just initials. A blank dash where her last name should be. The email account is still there, untouched since 2016, but it's addressed to no one. I remember her laugh, but I can't remember the shape of her name when I say it aloud. A man called in from Florida, or what's left of it. He didn't give a name. Said he'd been driving for hours, trying to outrun the pattern, convinced if he could get out of state lines it might skip over him. But every town he entered had already started fading. Fast food places abandoned mid-shift. Hotels with TVs still running, but no guests. Street signs that no longer made sense. Letters missing, words rewritten into nonsense. He said he used to be named Faulkner. Now he just says, I was someone. Then there's the tape I played. A forgotten reel from the back cabinet. No label, just the word filed. I don't remember putting it in, but it started spinning on its own. A woman's voice. Clear, steady. She said, they're removing the anchors. Not killing us, just removing the pieces that made us stay. Then static, then silence. And when the reel ended, the tape dissolved into the player like dust. I reached out to grab it, to rewind or eject or stop, but it was already gone. Just an empty reel spinning. And that's the second sign. After the silence comes the vanishing. Not dramatic, not explosive, just missing. I walked down to the end of the hall toward the storage room. I keep photos there. Old ones, personal ones. I opened the box where I knew I'd find the one of my old college friend, Francis. We were close. Laughed too loud in libraries. Smoked behind the comm building. Swore we'd never stop being in touch. I held the photo under the flickering light. His face was there, but the name under it was gone. My pen must have written it once. It's my handwriting. The pressure is still visible, but there's no ink left. Like the word Francis rejected its own existence. And now I'm speaking to the last of the F's. If you're still here, if your name starts with that letter, you're standing on a cliff's edge. Don't look down. Don't look behind. Just speak. Loud. Often. Anchor yourself in sound. Because sound might be the only thing the system hasn't learned how to delete. Not yet. It's strange how quickly absence becomes ordinary. Just a few days ago, I was tracking every disappearance with frantic urgency, writing down names, playing back recordings, cataloging the fading as if it might help. But now, G is here, and it doesn't feel like panic anymore. It feels like routine. I think that's the most unsettling part, the way the world keeps moving, like it's adjusting, shrinking around the holes. Tonight, I realized I hadn't heard from Greg in almost 2 weeks. He used to call in at exactly 1:17 a.m. every Thursday. Never missed it. Even when he had nothing to say, he'd still check in. Still here, he'd tell me. Still listening. That's all. A simple comfort. Last week, I thought maybe he was just sick. This week, I check his file. Nothing. No address. No number. No call history. Like he'd never said anything at all. I opened a drawer of old CDs. Ones I'd labeled by hand years ago. One had his voice on it, I was sure. A clip of him talking about stars that flickered in Morse code. It used to make me laugh. But now the track's silent. 5 minutes of dead air. It's not a glitch. It's how the erasure works. I keep expecting grief. I should be sad. But there's no ache, no tightness in the chest. Just a fogged-over sense of having forgotten something I once needed. The kind of forgetting that feels peaceful, purposeful, like the world wants me to let go. A woman emailed me earlier. She said she'd lost her entire family tree. Everyone she could trace. All GS. Were gone. Photos with faces blurred. Records altered. Even stories told by mouth started to unravel. Her uncle used to tell a joke about growing up on Garrett Lane. But now, she can't remember the punchline. Can't remember the street. She ended her email with a line I haven't been able to stop repeating. I think the alphabet is tired of holding us. That one stuck with me, because there's something coldly mechanical about what's happening. No wrath, no judgment, just a slow, alphabetical progression, like someone's cleaning out a list, as if existence was just a ledger, and we're being redacted one initial at a time. I got one call tonight. Just one. A low, raspy voice. No introduction. No story. Just, my last name is Garrison. I woke up without my reflection. Then a click. No number listed. No trace. I didn't even catch the tone of their voice before it was gone. The station's been quiet since. Too quiet. Even the static hum seems softer tonight. Like the equipment knows something's winding down. And maybe it is. Because if we're this far already, gee, then we've lost more than half the letters. Half the names. Half the people. And still, the sun rises. The power grid holds. Traffic lights blink through empty streets. Radios hum where no one is left to listen. The world doesn't scream when it's emptied. It simply echoes less. And the echoes are fading fast. There's something especially disorienting about waking up and realizing your own name has thinned out. Not disappeared, not yet, but faded like ink soaked too long in rain. It's still there, technically, but harder to see, harder to say without hesitation. I noticed it when I signed my name earlier, just out of habit, on a note I was scribbling for myself. I paused at the last letter, hand hovering like I'd forgotten how to end it. Like the name didn't want to be completed. And when I said it out loud, it sounded unfamiliar. Not wrong, just off, as if I were trying on someone else's identity. One I used to own, but didn't quite fit anymore. That's where we are now, somewhere between H and I. The station feels different. Not emptier, exactly. Just quieter in the way a church might be when no one's around. Reverent, but without direction. The equipment hums. The lights still flicker, but it feels like it's functioning out of momentum, not purpose. I walked past the file cabinet today, the one nobody's touched in years. I flipped through a drawer labeled HJ and found it empty. No rustle of manila folders. No lingering paper smell. Just air, like the cabinet had accepted its own forgetting. Callers are scarce now. The few that come through don't stay long. One man with voice thin, scared, said his neighbor had been there the night before, sitting on the porch like always. Henry, he said. Good man. Good dog. Always waved. Today, the porch is empty. The dog's bowl is gone. The grass, where the chair used to sit, has grown up like it was never flattened by years of use. Henry, he said again. I know that name. I remember it. But by the time the call ended, he'd started saying the neighbor instead. I didn't correct him. Another woman called sobbing, not for who she lost, but for who she used to be. Said she looked at her driver's license and saw a blank where her last name should be. Said she used to be Hammond, but now even that sounds strange when she speaks it. It's like the name forgot me first, she whispered. That one stuck with me, because it's not just people being deleted. It's identity. It's reference. Even letters are starting to break down. I looked at the alphabet board we keep in the hallway, a leftover from a station promo about learning call signs. A to Z, coast to coast. I stared at it today and saw it missing H, just a gap between G and I. A blank space we're all being taught, not a question. The jump between letters is getting faster. When A disappeared, it took nearly a week. We're down to hours now, minutes maybe, and we're moving into I. That's me. That's the start of my name. Not my first, but my last. The one on all the paperwork. The one on every email and broadcast signature. I keep thinking about what happens when the letter lands. Will it feel like anything? Will the booth go dark? Will my reflection stop copying me? Or will I just continue speaking, unaware that no one remembers me? That no one can. So I'm saying it now, while I still can. I am here. I remember who I am. I remember the sound of my own name. And I remember you. Those of you still listening. Because if the alphabet ends us all, maybe memory can hold on just a little longer. Long enough to say goodbye. I crossed it. Sometime in the early morning, between the end of static loop and the rise of that colorless sky, I felt the shift. I've been watching the monitors, half asleep in the chair, whispering names into the mic like prayers. Isabel, Irving, Ivan, Iris. Names that sounded smaller each time I said them, like they were shrinking away from my voice. Then I tried saying my own last name, just to test it, and nothing came out. My lips moved. I felt the shape of it. The syllables rolled against the roof of my mouth. But no sound. I tried again. Still nothing. And then I knew. I had ended. The letter had moved on, and I had been allowed through. I don't know what that means. I'm still here. I can still speak. still breathe, but it feels like I'm between something now. Not erased, but not anchored either. Like I'm borrowing space from a system that doesn't recognize me anymore. And now we're in J. A few hours ago, I tried calling my cousin, Janelle. We haven't spoken in months, but I remember her birthday, the way she burned toast on purpose, her lopsided smile. I dialed the number. The phone rang once, then again, then a robotic voice. This number is not in service. No apology, no explanation, just a dead end. I searched my contacts. Nothing under J. No James, no Jennifer, no Jared. It's like the list resorted itself in real time. And when I look through the yearbooks we keep in the station archive, don't ask me why, we just do. The pages were still there, but the names had thinned out. Rows of faces with empty labels beneath them. A smile, a haircut, a moment captured, but no identity to hold them in place. I used to think the names were being removed. Now I think they're surrendering. I got a voice message about an hour ago. A man breathing heavy into the mic sounded like he was in a tunnel or a stairwell, somewhere echoey. He said, "My last name is Jenkins. I think I'm next. I don't want to forget who I am. I don't want to go quiet." He said it twice, then a pause, then a softer voice, distant, almost overlaid on the call, said, "It's already happening." And the message cut out. I played it back twice. The voice is still there, but the word Jenkins fades faster with each play. By the fourth listen, it was barely a breath. I've stopped writing things down. It doesn't help. The ink runs. The pages crinkle in ways that don't match physics. Whole paragraphs vanish while I'm reading them. This station, once a monument to permanence, to signal, to documentation, has become a place of echoes. And even the echoes are breaking down. I went to the bathroom earlier and stood in front of the mirror just to see if my reflection still remembered me. It did, but slower than usual. My head tilted and the mirrored version lagged by a second, like it was buffering. I wonder what happens when we reach the middle of the alphabet. If this is a countdown or a symmetry. If the last names vanish slower or faster, or if by the time we get to Z, there's no one left to notice, no one to mourn, no one to remember the letters that came before. But tonight, I remember J. I remember everyone who wore that letter proudly, quietly, for decades. I remember their voices, their stories, even if they've forgotten themselves, even if the world has forgotten them. I'll hold on as long as I can, because if no one says the names, they're never coming back. The booth is shrinking, not physically. The walls haven't moved, the equipment's still where I left it, but the air, there's less of it. Like I'm breathing in memory instead of oxygen. Like the place remembers me less with each passing hour. And I don't know how to tell if I'm still part of the story. My name starts with L. It's close now. Too close. All day, I've been seeing the signs. Little things. Personal things. The photo taped to the booth wall. One of the only ones I've kept here. Faded this morning. The edges browned. Then the middle blurred. A group shot from a staff picnic years ago. I'm in it, or at least I was. Now, I can't even tell which one's supposed to be me. I tried logging into the station's internal system. My username didn't work. I reset it twice. On the third attempt, the screen read, "No account associated with this identity." And that word, identity, it's been circling my head like a vulture. Because I don't think this thing is just alphabetical. I think it's targeting the concept of self, who we are on paper, in memory, in the minds of others. I got a call this afternoon, one of the last before the lines went weird. A man, his voice full of gravel and fear, said his wife had vanished. He remembered her name, started with L, but that's all. No face, no favorite color, no wedding day, just a letter, a flicker, a ghost. He said, "I'm scared I'll lose her twice. First her body, now her meaning." Then he hung up. I sat with that for a long time. What happens when the only thing left of someone is a sound you can't quite pronounce? I tried saying my name out loud in the bathroom mirror. It came out shaky, soft. My own voice didn't recognize it, like it was someone else's, or like I was reciting a password I'd never memorized properly. The studio lights flickered around sunset, and when they came back, my shadow didn't return right away. I stood there waiting, watching the floor. It came back after a few seconds, but smaller, shorter than it should be, Like I'd forgotten how tall I was supposed to be. Or maybe I was the one forgetting. I keep thinking about what it means to be at the edge of your own deletion. It's not pain. It's not even fear. It's drift. You stop recognizing the names in your own address book. You hear your favorite song and can't remember why it mattered. You sit at a mic and talk, and the voice sounds a fraction too far away. I don't know how many people are left. I haven't heard from anyone with an M last name yet. No N's. No O's. Maybe they're already gone. Maybe the list is moving faster than I can track. But I'm still here. For now. So I'm saying this into the static, for whoever's left to hear. My name is fading, but I remember it. And I remember you. Not by your letter, by your voice. I don't know how many letters are left. Not really. Somewhere between L and Z. The rhythm broke, stopped unfolding evenly. It's like the sequence began skipping, tripping over itself, or accelerating towards some endpoint I can't track. The airwaves are quieter now. Not silent, but close. Like the static is learning how to breathe. I haven't gotten a call in hours. The lines still light up sometimes, but when I answer, there's nothing. Not even dead air. Just space. Hollow, clean, absent of sound the way a museum feels when no one's walked through in days. Once I thought I heard breath. Once, a voice trying to form a word that didn't start with any letter I recognize. The last voice I heard was a man named Zeller. It was about 2 hours ago. Maybe more. Time's slurring now. Zeller said, "I've been listening since I noticed something was off. Everyone around me disappearing, reshaping, being forgotten. He said he's the last in his city, that he walks streets that still light up but don't illuminate anything. He keeps a flashlight, but he said it doesn't cast a shadow anymore. Not even his own. I think I'm last," he told me. Not just a name. In sequence. I asked why he called. To listen to someone else say it out loud, he said. To not be the only one hearing it end. Then he went quiet. Not a hang-up. Not static. Just the line dimming. Like the sound knew when to leave. I wrote his name down. Zeller. All caps. Underlined. I read it back once. Then looked away. When I looked again, it was gone. I haven't tried to write since. I think something's wrong with the words themselves now. I tried reading from a book, an old copy of the names, ironically, but the pages blurred. The ink curled backward like it didn't want to be spoken. When I spoke the names on the page, the sound came out wrong. Crooked, echoed back like someone else was repeating me, a second behind. The alphabet isn't a line anymore. It's a spiral, tightening, and I'm sitting in the center, feeling the pull. I keep thinking about the letters we don't use often. Q, X, Z. Names that are rare, tucked away at the edges of documents, initials barely glanced at. Are those people even real anymore? Were they ever? Or are they the ones who saw this first? I walked the booth again. Just once. Just a slow lap around the perimeter, touching everything. I put my hand on the wall, and it felt thinner than it used to. Like one push would make it fall outward into nothing. There are no names left on the wall chart. All the magnets have fallen. All the letters have stopped glowing. I think I'm the last one here. Or maybe not. Maybe there's someone else out there. Another Zeller. A Quinn. A Yates. Sitting by their radio, hearing my voice fade. Waiting for the final letter to call their name. I hope they know I'm still speaking. I hope that counts for something. I'm still speaking, but I don't know what's coming through anymore. The monitor lights are dimmer. The clock hands tick, but they don't move. It's like time got tired. Like it's waiting to see if I'll notice. I think I'm the last one left. I keep expecting some grand finale. A flash. A voice booming through the speakers. The sound of a switch being flipped. But there's none of that. Just a steady, soft erasure. Like being unspooled thread by thread. I haven't said my name in hours. I'm afraid of what might happen if I try. Afraid I won't recognize it. Afraid it'll echo back to me in someone else's voice. The alphabet has nearly finished its list. I can feel the weight of the Z pressing in, like fog, just outside the booth door. Not malevolent, not violent, just absolute, final. I keep turning the dial to stations that no longer exist. They're still on the map, some of them I even worked with. But now they're static, empty, as if their signals are being absorbed into silence. I heard something a few minutes ago. Not a voice. A sound, like a chair dragging across a floor. Somewhere, just behind the wall. But this building's hollow. No one's left to move furniture. No one's left to listen. Except me. Except whoever. Or whatever this alphabet belongs to. It's not alphabetical anymore, though, is it? It was for a while. Clean. Neat. Orderly. Now it's just decay. Unraveling. Language breaking down because it wasn't built to carry this much loss. I opened the last email in the inbox earlier. No sender. No subject. Just a single sentence. We never should have given names to things. I keep reading it. We never should have given names to things. Maybe they were never meant to be labeled. Maybe we were never meant to be cataloged, remembered in lists, arranged by first letters like that defined us. Maybe names were just placeholders for something deeper, something we were never supposed to touch. And now, whatever this is, it's undoing the mistake. One letter at a time. I think I've slipped past the end now. I've checked every list I can find, broadcast registries, staff directories, archives. I'm not on them. My voice is still here somehow, but my name isn't. I guess that's the last thing to go. Not your face, not your memory, your name. Because when there's no one left to say it, you were never really here. If this is my last broadcast, I want it to matter. I want it to land somewhere, even if there's no one left to catch it. Maybe the signal will bounce off the edge of something. Maybe the static will carry it longer than I can. So here's what I'll say. Not my name, not yours, but this. You were real. You were known. And even if the alphabet forgets you, I won't. Not until the very last letter curls into silence.